Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a massive shift happening right now in market research. We are moving away from purely manual fieldwork and stepping into the era of synthetic research. Specifically, we're going to break down how this tech is completely revolutionizing our ability to simulate those deeply complex B2B buying groups. And, crucially, we'll talk about how to use it without falling into some pretty dangerous traps along the way. Let's get into it.
Here's a quick look at our agenda for today. We'll start with the need for speed, then define what synthetic audiences actually are. After that, we'll get into simulating B2B buying groups, look at where humans absolutely still need to decide, and wrap up with the new research workflow.
Okay, Section 1, the need for speed. Now, traditional market research has always sought to understand people so we can make better business decisions, right? But there is a massive point of friction today. Think about this for a second. What if you could actually test an idea with your market before you ever went to market? That is the ultimate question facing insight teams today, right before they drop thousands of dollars on live research or spend weeks in field work. Imagine you've got a new campaign, a fresh product message, or a completely revamped sales narrative. The old-fashioned way to test this is powerful, sure, but getting those answers is becoming a huge bottleneck.
Because let's be real, the market simply does not wait around for your research calendar. Traditional research can be incredibly expensive and painstakingly slow. A brilliant segmentation study you did just 6 months ago, it might already be stale. And trying to wrangle an entire B2B buying committee for interviews, that can literally take months. By the time those findings finally make it to leadership, the market has already moved on. Speed is absolutely the currency of modern business, but, and this is a big but, speed is only useful when it's governed by real evidence.
Moving right along to Section 2, defining synthetic audiences.
What's really fascinating here is how we separate the hype, and there's a lot of it, from the actual science. It is absolutely critical to understand that a serious synthetic persona isn't just some random chatbot. It's a robust model built on real first-party customer insight and behavioral signals. You can't just fire up a generic AI prompt and say, hey, pretend you're my B2B buyer. That is way too shallow. True synthetic research is constructed from real audience data. It ingests your past research, your interview transcripts, survey data, market context, the whole shebang. A synthetic persona is only ever as useful as the hard evidence backing it up.
So the crucial takeaway here is that tone is not truth. AI has this incredible, almost spooky natural ability to sound convincing. It mimics human language perfectly. But a convincing answer from a model isn't automatically a valid insight. Valid insight demands grounded behavior and truth. As researchers, we shouldn't just be asking if the AI sounds convincing. We need to be asking, are the model's responses stable? Are they grounded in recent data? Are they free from hidden biases?
All right, Section 3, simulating B2B buying groups. This is where things get super interesting.
Let's look at the absolute most powerful application of this tech. B2B buying is never just one person making a choice in a vacuum. It's a complex, highly opinionated, often chaotic group. And synthetic research lets us simulate these competing internal dynamics almost perfectly. Think about a typical enterprise deal. You've got a champion who desperately wants your solution, a blocker who loves the status quo, a tech evaluator who is obsessed with integration issues, an economic buyer closely watching the budget, and an XX sponsor looking purely at ROI. Anyone who has ever sold B2B knows that getting all these folks to agree is practically a minor miracle. Simulating just one single buyer persona is useless in B2B. You have to simulate the entire room.
Once you have that whole dynamic in place, you can model how a single piece of messaging actually travels, survives, or dies during an internal corporate debate. Let's say you roll out a brand new value proposition. The champion looks at it and thinks, wow, this is going to save my team 10 hours a week. But the blocker looks at the exact same claim and goes, wait, implementing this is going to require a massive, painful database migration. Synthetic research allows us to model these competing reactions simultaneously. We can literally see what the champion is most likely to repeat to the CFO and exactly what objections the technical evaluator is going to raise before they ever trust your claim.
I absolutely love this quote because it hits the nail right on the head. Our goal isn't just a pitch. It's understanding the internal misalignment and objections long before we ever get on a Zoom call with real clients. You aren't selling to a person, you're selling to a conversation. And if you can simulate that internal debate synthetically beforehand, you can pre-test your messaging to ensure it completely arms your champion and neutralizes your blocker before the real-world meeting even starts. It's a total game changer.
Now for Section 4, where humans still decide. Let's put up some necessary guardrails.
We have to be careful here because synthetic research becomes dangerous the second people start treating it as the final, absolute truth. There are 5 major risks insight teams need to manage. First, false confidence. This happens because AI sounds so certain, even when it's completely hallucinating a B2B buyer's pain point. Then there is synthetic sameness. If you use generic inputs, you're going to get the exact same insights as your competitors. Third is invisible bias, reflecting stereotypes hidden deep in the training data. Fourth is weak provenance, meaning you literally can't defend where your insight came from to stakeholders. But honestly, the most dangerous one of all, shortcut culture. That's when organizations use this tack to just avoid the hard, messy work of talking to an actual economic buyer or blocker.
So there is a very strict line we have to draw. Synthetic research is your rehearsal. It's there to get you to the starting line much stronger, but the actual market must validate what is true. Use synthetic audiences for early-stage hypotheses, pre-testing your messaging, or discovering blind spots in your committee simulation. That's where it shines, but human truth still matters. You should never, ever use a synthetic audience to determine actual purchase intent, set final pricing, or make high-stakes multi-million-dollar investment decisions. When the stakes are that high, humans still settle the question.
Finally, Section 5, the new research workflow.
To leverage this tech safely, insight teams need a completely new operational framework. Following these 6 steps ensures that synthetic output is never mistakenly presented as the literal voice of the customer, but rather as highly simulated evidence. First up, always start with real evidence. Don't build B2B personas out of thin air. Second, define your specific buying group assumptions crystal clear. Third, ask rigorous non-leading questions, just like you would with humans. Fourth, test for response stability. Fifth, you have to compare these synthetic signals with live in-market performance. And finally, use these synthetic outputs to actually design much better human research.
What this all means is that AI does not remove the researcher at all. Actually, scratch that. It elevates them. It raises the standard. In this new era, the most valuable person in the room isn't the one who just knows how to run the software. It's the bias detector, the methodology guardian, the insight interpreter. The researcher's true, irreplaceable value moves from manual execution directly into expert judgment. This right here is basically the manifesto for the future of evidence-accelerated insight. Use synthetic research to move faster. Use human research to know what is true. Synthetic research is your rehearsal space. It's how you explore faster, expose those hidden blind spots, and make your ideas incredibly robust before they ever face the real world. But remember, it only works when your research discipline is stronger than your technology.
I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought to chew on before you sit down to design your next major B2B study. As we continue to bridge the gap between artificial speed and human truth, where are you going to draw the line? Are you using these tools to completely replace the complex B2B buying committee? Or are you using them to brilliantly rehearse for it? Keep asking the hard questions and keep relying on the evidence. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer.